Good afternoon, everyone. More than anything else, I am also very hungry, so be assured I'd wrap it fast. I may choose not to use the slides as well. I don't have many slides, though. Uh, I speak on the behalf of consumers, and I'm the business of data measurement. Fortunately, people like Joydeep and SPRD and Huspar and Rockefeller Foundation, they give us space to actually create evidence from the field. I remember in the last 5, 6 years, the sector per se has become more receptive to data, more receptive to feedback. So in the kind of engagement that we have with Rockefeller Foundation, we provide regular sort of real-time feedback to large-scale implementation on mini-grids, on different other developmental interventions as well. So from the community side, the topic for our discussion was around enablement. In terms of technology, in terms of other financial parameters, I'm sure mini-grids is quite capable of providing or supporting 24/7 power to all. But let's take it to the next level. Let's give it a different spin altogether. For community, what does enablement means? Is it the same? Because most of us are technocrats and also implementers. Few of us are like fence sitters. We haven't worked in the field much. We haven't implemented projects. But what we understand is community's definition of enablement is quite different. We are talking about progressing from handheld devices to solar home lighting system to something quite similar to grid. So if mini-grid is quite similar to grid, the aspirations from mini-grid would be quite similar to what a grid would provide. So what would a grid provide, or what does a grid provide? We have all lived in grid. What would a grid provide? And why shouldn't communities, or why shouldn't we think about it, that agar grid XYZ provide karti hai, to mini-grid ko bhi, if not the same, but at least should try to provide the same kind of benefits. To simplify things, what we have done is we think in terms of impacts that a mini-grid can create. First is, let's forget how many connections that you make, how many households that you connect. For me, the driver should be impacts that have been created. So that can be sort of clubbed into 3 E's that we call. One is equitable access to improved living condition. Most of us are urban bred. We understand what improved living condition or what good living condition means. Second is equitable access to community or communal facilities, say street light or institutions. And third is, and the most important these days, is economic development. So I'll take sort of a couple of minutes on each of the issues. First, when you talk about equitable access, we have been a bit with a risk of sounding cynical, we have been a bit casual on what equitable access in improved living condition means. For us, if our mini-grid is able to trigger a couple of more hours of electricity in a house, and which enables women to cook conveniently, or which enables children to study for 30 extra minutes, for us this becomes a success criteria. So in last 3 months, in fact, Joydeep pointed out to me in one of the meetings that we had, what beyond this? We have been hearing about these things since ages now. These indicators have, if I may say this, a diminishing marginal utility. आपने आज, if बच्चे की पढ़ाई 2 घंटे आज बढ़ी है, it would not increase to 3 hours in 2 months' time or 3 months' time. So what is the success of mini-grid when it comes to equity in improved living condition? So you have progressive indicators like aspirations. You have progressive indicators how this household climbs the energy ladder, how this household becomes cleaner when it comes to indoor air pollution. So these are the things that these are far too complex for us to actually understand or to implement in the project. I remember one of our visits to Chhapra in one of the mini-grid sites. We went with this high-handed feeling of frameworks and indicators and success measures. And when we talked to women at night, the indicator that came out very strongly of success was कि because mini grid है तो हम लोग मोबाइल पे independently movie देख सकते हैं. This, I'm sure, cannot be a measure of success for many of us. So, but for us, it is, for community, it is a very important measure of success. We have been when we talk about equity, we have been using something like this a GIS-enabled map to measure equity when it comes to accessing improved living conditions. So for us, equity is a phenomena which has both spatial and temporal dimension. One has to target equity with respect to this. So I have a couple of slides on this. So first is when you start, I'm running a bit fast because of the reasons that you know. One is the intention bit. What if a mini grid is designed with an intention of providing power to all in the village? And second is, let's forget the design. Design was of gold standard. What are the compromises made during execution? Has it been rectified with the equity lens? So in case of SPRD, we are measuring equity with respect to both design, that means intention, and execution, that means operationalization of the design. Moving to, I won't talk much about equitable access to better communal facilities, you all know about it. Third is economic development, and this would be the last 5 minutes that I have, and I'll move real fast. We have historically, if you look at data available otherwise, and all across the world, there's something called deficit assumption. We start our planning based on that. We think that because energy poor communities have not seen electricity, so anything would do. So we plan things in a way that keeps us on a sort of higher pedestal. And this leads to a spiral as well. We then plan, our plans are essentially made on capacity of payment than willingness to pay. So these are two different things. Let's understand that if our interventions are intentional, not incidental, then we would plan our things, we would budget our things, we would estimate our things based on what it would trigger, not as is situation. So these are the things that we need to communicate or understand to the wider world, that let's not get into this spiral of, because communities do not have anything, let's do anything for them. Let's adopt a very minimalistic approach. Let's use only the basic services lens more than the advanced services lens, which Haspa was talking about. Then there is an element of fighting the stereotype, and both Joydeep and Manoj, in fact, ratified this. There is a general perception that people don't pay. But people do pay, and we have two live examples here. And these are not only two live examples. There are examples all across the world that people do pay. And the more problematic function here is timeliness of payment than repayment. So there is a general opinion that people don't pay, hence we would not do this. So let's respect our consumers. That is something that I usually get quite disturbed. We are investing in rural India, and let's be real. We have all kind of we have grants coming in, we have soft loans coming in, we have a sense of responsibility towards what we are doing. So let's respect the consumers whom we are targeting. It is as same as what microfinance industry used to be 10 years back. One thing that our data from SPRD shows that an average household in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh spends around 18 to 20% in energy. So this amounts, and this is the kind of expenditure that they are already bearing. If that be the case, the very assumption that rural consumers do not pay for energy is sort of on a wrong foot. I would not actually, the evidence would not support that. The other problem that we usually see is we tend to connect consumption with income. Energy is as a catalyst, electricity as a catalyst, so sort of disturbs this understanding of ours. There are studies done by the World Bank, SMAP, our own studies, which do not suggest that there is a direct connection between consumption and income of a household. The income pattern, the consumption pattern is usually changed, usually moderated, usually adjusted. So let's plan our things in a way that sort of disturbs or say breaks these stereotypes in a better way. We are, when it comes to economic development, this is mandatory for a business model to function, for a market-driven initiative to function. In a sort of a disruptive manner, what we have done here is, the Rockefeller Foundation has promoted here is, that if you are talking about triggering an economy through productive loads that you create, then why don't you talk about the gross domestic product of a village? How does it change over a period of time? Because if you look at early evidence on connection between poverty reduction and 24/7 power or mini grid, you don't have good evidence to support that. So it is a sort of the gestation period for this kind of a change is quite long. For that, we have introduced something called GDP plus method with SPRD, within the SPRD catchment area, where it's a prototype of national level GDP that is being calculated. So at a village level, how would economic, social, and environmental levers work in tandem? And how, with time, how would these change? So this is being done. Why I sort of quoted this example is, we have become conscious now that we are connecting, we are connecting enterprises, we are connecting productive load. There is a need to be accountable towards what is the change. Are we actually making any change in the economy? So I'll close at this.